Hello and welcome to the final episode of Build-a-Kek Season 1. In this series we challenge competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players to take on weird deck building challenges and unusual game types via Dueling Book. The theme is randomly selected from a list of 100 options, and this time around our competitors are playing a Yu-Gi-Oh version of Capture the Flag. Now before we get things going, don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy the video, or even share it with other fans of the game. You can even subscribe to keep up to date with Top Deck and my other videos, and stay ahead of the general community. Now that's out of the way, let's get into the episode. So here's how it works. Each player has 8 flag cards in their deck, with awful stats of being a level 2 normal monster on 0/0 attack and defense. They're all Divine and Divine Beast, so really no synergy with any other kind of cards, to be honest. The aim of the game is to steal your opponent's flag card and have control of it, or have it in your hand for 2 consecutive end phases. You just need one of them, and then this is going to make a lot of really terrible cards in normal competitive play actually really good in this version of the game. Life points won't matter for these games, but decking out will still be a thing. Just so you guys don't go, oh, why is he running Exodia or Spirit Messages? The flag cards that we'll be using for this match, there'll be the Exodia pieces, the Spirit Messages, the God cards, and the Sacred Beasts. Alright, so let's get into the games. Okay, so in this finale we have Lewis versus Duncan, 2 giants of the series taking each other on, and we can see from Lewis's side we already have some sort of Sky Striker engine. This is of course one of the flag cards he's got in his hand. He's got Center Frog here too, which I believe was pretty awful when it first came out. People were just like, what is the point of printing this guy? What does it actually do though? If this is normal or flip summon, change it to defense position once per turn. You can target one monster in your opponent's main monster zone and give your opponent control of this card by moving it. So if you can get your opponent to summon one of their flag cards, you can switch out your monsters, I believe, by moving it to there. Then if your opponent controls exactly 2 Center Frog in the movements. Yes, if you give them multiple Center Frogs, then you can get into it. Alright, so he's going off with the Sky Striker engine, adding the drones, going through with the usual link plays into Kagari, adding back the engage, and then pumping up with the Shizuku. Heading on double engage is pretty nice, and you set the Dupe Frog, which can actually search out the Center Frog, I believe. He's got two of the flag cards in hand. Duncan's not really committing much to the board, he's just sending one because life points are totally irrelevant. And he's working his way through with an Aqua Dolphin, discarding a Feather of the Phoenix in order to take... What does this do? So, target one card in your grave or return that to the top of the deck. So I guess this stops your opponent from taking stuff out of your graveyard, but he did manage to use this to nab one of the flag cards out of Lewis's hand, and he knows that there's another one in there, so he can see victory on the horizon. He just has to be able to get control of it or get it into his own hand. Switching out and then attacking into the Dupe Frog, gonna take some damage, not that it's relevant. And then Lewis is going to use the Dolphin to take out Raviel, which is another one of the flag cards here. Linking off those two for the Phoenix to get rid of the back row. But no major play being able to take the opposing flag cards so far. Gets into the Afterburners just to remove that little bit of advantage there. And then he can work with the engage. Well, he's grabbed the Shark Cannon. This is pretty interesting. So you can use the Shark Cannon to steal the flag card, because it's a level 2 normal monster. I believe you can take normal monsters with this. Yep. So he just needs to have those 3 spells in the graveyard, which I think he already has. Yeah. So if he wants to steal it, all he's got to do is flip the Shark Cannon at some point, and he should be able to take things from here. During the end phase, we see, yep, Lewis flips the Shark Cannon, steals the flag card. That's one end phase, and then in his own turn, he goes into his end phase, and that's it, he takes it. Right, so that is game 1. Let's move on to game 2. So opening hand here, we see exchange up twice. This is actually really strong because you get to steal a flag card from your opponent's hand. You do have to know that it's there though, that is the difficult thing. We can see Duncan is actually going to commit his Spirit Message flag card to the board because he doesn't want to lose it when he uses his own exchange. But unfortunately for him, Lewis has no flag cards in his hand. That is one of the advantages of running a 60 card deck. You're less likely to draw into that thing. But he's going to take the Desires and give Lewis a Feather of the Phoenix, which is pretty awful at the moment. Doesn't actually do anything. Now, here's a pretty interesting thing. You can use Desires to banish cards from your deck face down, and you can actually banish your flag cards. And if you banished all of your flag cards, your opponent would be unable to win except by you decking out. So we see the Dew Frog attacking over the Spirit Message here. But here we don't see a way for Lewis to grab that card from the opponent. And he's going to go through with the Desires. Again, having the option to get rid of stuff, but there's a Dark Bribe here. Pretty interesting because you don't know what's going to be used to get rid of your cards, and Dark Bribe is a very sort of generic out to a lot of things. And if you're going to stop a win condition by giving a draw away, then that's normally worth it. Because you don't tend to be in many situations where a single card can win a match outright. But this is the kind of format where it does work. We see once again, Lewis has a Shark Cannon in hand. He doesn't actually have enough spells in graveyard, so if he can resolve either Reinforcement or Exchange, then there is this flag card in Duncan's graveyard, which he'll be able to steal. So he's going to add the Ray, dumping another spell, and then use the Exchange here. Yeah, to take the Scalding. Steals the Scalding, but obviously he can't play it while he has that other card set. But he does have the Frog Negate available. So Ray can just punch over the swap, and then Creature Swap being negated here. Lewis is just going to use that to keep his advantage up. But once again, during the end phase, he's going to use the Shark Cannon to steal the Message Eye and special summon it to his field during the end phase. That means he's going to have it for one of those end phases. Can he have it for another one? So we see that Duncan is attempting to use Jar of Avarice. What is it? But he needs to have 5 in the graveyard, and he only has 4. So he's not going to be able to resolve Jar of Avarice, which means that Lewis is once again going to take the win with an end phase Shark Cannon. So the Sky Striker engine actually proven to be really useful within this format. Just the fact that you can quick play steal a monster from your opponent's graveyard is a phenomenal effect. Absolutely phenomenal. Here's a look at Duncan's list from the final episode, and we can see he's gone for the typical 40 card, I just want to see all of my pieces and get this thing going kind of list. He's got Morphing Jar and Aqua Dolphin and a few other things that kind of are just intended to make your opponent drop cards into the graveyard so you can start doing stuff. And then he's got the Autonomous Action Unit, which you can use to special summon the opponent's monster to your side of the field. So if you can make them discard some good stuff and then you can steal a monster, as long as it hangs around, you win the game from this. Creature Swap also taking opposing cards, same with the Designator and Exchange, so all just stealing stuff. Then he anticipated that people would be playing stuff to take control of opposing monsters, so Owner's Seal comes in here, taking back those cards. As I mentioned before, Dark Bribe being a sort of generic out to what you're not expecting is pretty nice. Mind Crush is even more even more ways to put stuff into the graveyard. And then the reasoning behind Scolding is very similar to that of Dark Bribe, except it outs more generic stuff. Then we have the 8 flag cards here. In the side deck there's some more stuff to mill, and a lot of things putting stuff face down, so I guess this sort of eliminates the fact that opponents could be controlling stuff if it's face down and they don't necessarily control the flag card because it has no stats. And Reincarnations, these are kind of funky because you can banish your own flag cards out of your opponent's hand. And Jar of Avarice too, if you have your own flags in the grave, then you can get rid of them. And then he's just stuck an Outstanding Dogma in here. The extra is fairly standard too. I guess one of the interesting things here is Herald of Pure Light. The fact that you can add back your monsters if you're fearing having lost your flag cards to the graveyard. Alright, so with that over, let's take a look at Lewis's list then. So the victorious list here, 60 cards as we said before. Running the Center Frogs, which can card steal. Don's Luke, pretty interesting as well. So you get to discard a card from your opponent's hand. which is really nice actually, because then you can put the flags in the graveyard and start stealing with the shark cannon. Do frog search as center frog, and here we have some flags, some kaiju. I think what Lewis said was that you wanted an engine where, first of all, you have easy access to a card that can steal flags, so the fact that you have the triple shark cannon available can be a really big deal. This is sort of the main way of stealing them, but you can also steal them with Monster Reborn and the Lullabies of Obedience too. An exchange, of course, also a advantageous card within this sort of matchup, Mind Crush 2 in the side. One of the things here is that you can just sort of build up a frog board, and then generally your toad is enough that your opponent is not going to be able to negate it, because they're not building their deck to beat your opponent's monsters, they're building their deck to just grab your cards. So if you have enough cards that steal cards, then you win. And if you have enough cards that stop your opponent from stealing cards, like setting up a Totally Awesome, then you just win from that instead. As we mentioned, Desire's doing a lot of work because he can banish your flags, so you just can't lose if that happens. And then he's actually playing the Upstart Golem because you do just want to get your Striker engine going. It's not the case that you don't want to see all of your cards, so you can just dump another spell. This is pretty reasonable. And a Paleo engine too to complement the frogs on top of that. Thanks very much for checking out the series, and we hope you guys have enjoyed watching along or taking part. I have many ideas about how I'd run a second series a little bit differently, so if you think that it's worth watching in the future, then drop a comment, let me know, and I'll get working on a second one, which will probably run some point next year, to be honest. As for everything else, stay tuned for episodes of Top Deck and competitive discussions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.